The rhetoric is gearing up against Netanyahu, and I think Netanyahu should pay attention because it's only a matter of, I think it's only a matter of weeks before the indulgence of the United States breaks. Kamala Harris, the vice president, was in Alabama, and her choice of venue is significant because that was where the state troopers beat up civil rights marchers. The optics don't look good when she stands up at a podium and calls on Israel to pull back from its humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. She's calling on Netanyahu to hold off on his Rafah onslaught. She says specifically, people in Gaza are starving, the conditions are inhumane. I don't think anybody would doubt that, and it's good to hear that voiced by a senior member of the American administration. Then she comes over to her solution, which I think is rhetorical rather than realistic. The Israeli government must do significantly more to increase the flow of aid. I think the Israeli government must take responsibility for this flow of aid. They must open the gates. They must open more crossings. Actually, that is something she recommends. They must stop the unnecessary restrictions. That's also something that she recommends. I think they should be opening up hospital beds in Israel to treat the sick and the wounded in Gaza. I think that should have been on the cards from day one. She says more food, more water and fuel to reach those in need. Absolutely. But equally, there has to be a realistic proposal on the table for life after this conflict, a realistic proposal on the table that recognizes a two-state system. And if necessary, that has to be imposed on Netanyahu in the way that he's imposing his decisions on Gaza. It can't be that there's one rule for Netanyahu and another rule for others. Netanyahu is unrealistic and unreasonable, and I think the future of the Middle East will be better without Netanyahu and without his thugs. But if Netanyahu is going to stay, he needs to be pressured into accepting a future which will guarantee parity for Palestine with Israel. And meanwhile, just to flag up the slight absurdity of the rhetoric, the US have just started airdrops of aid into Gaza. Well, that could have been done months ago. Britain did it about a month ago. And dropping aid by air is something we could have done from almost the very beginning of the war. And so I really don't think that the hand-wringing of the US cuts very much mustard when it comes to calls for humanitarian aid. They were always possible. It's simply a failure to think outside the box and a failure to move from rhetoric to reality.